This happened in January. Wow, that was a while ago. I would have been so antsy waiting for an update, seriously. But the district attorney called me 2 days ago with the update. I am a wheelchair user because of a fainting disorder, severe POTS for those wondering. Oh, that is so rough. I am so sorry you have to deal with that. It must make everything 1,000 times harder. I came home from work to see a car parked right under a no parking fire lane and on the sidewalk. It blocked the way into my apartment and I had to leave the wheelchair in my car. Ugh, seriously? People are the worst. That is so inconsiderate and totally unsafe. A fire lane. Really? That is not okay. I started taking photos of the car because this had been an issue with the owner for months. My landlord had told me to get photos of it and email them to him every time she did it after I mentioned it in passing. While taking a photo, the owner came out of her apartment to scream at me. Oh, here we go. Anyway, why do people who are clearly in the wrong always escalate things like this? I would have just walked away and stewed about it in my apartment, not come out yelling. What on earth? I stayed calm and tried to walk into my apartment. She got in my face to continue screaming, and by reflex, I shove her back. Well, that is just a natural reaction when someone is right up in their space and yelling at you. You do not do that to people. Good for you for pushing her away. She then grabbed me by the throat and began to punch me. Wait, what? Oh my goodness, she did what? That is absolutely horrible and so incredibly violent. I am actually shaking just reading that. A very big gulp. After a minute, my neighbors and roommate, who were having a smoke, came running and got her off me. Thank goodness. Seriously, bless those people. Imagine if they were not there. This could have been so much worse. Police were called. Paramedics showed up because my neck was bleeding. She had acrylic nails. Ugh, those talons are the worst. She is just a menace. I hope she broke a nail, honestly. I ended up going to the ER because I had a syncope episode while the paramedics were there. Oh no. That fainting disorder must have made this whole terrifying situation 10 times scarier for you. I am so sorry that happened. That is terrible. I decided to press charges, thinking I'd just get an aggravated assault or something. I made sure that they got her while she was home because I knew she had a gun on the wall despite being a convicted felon. That is actually really smart thinking, making sure they got her at home. You just knew things were going to get worse for her, did you? You are like a super detective. When the police went to arrest her, they found that the car was stolen without insurance. She didn't have a license. There was used needles all over the apartment with her 8-year-old child. Oh my goodness, that poor child. This whole story just got so darker. That is so heartbreaking. A very big sigh. And the gun, which was also marked stolen. Are you kidding me? Stolen fart, stolen gun, no license, drugs, and child endangerment. This woman is a one-woman crime spree. I cannot even believe all of this came from a parking dispute. A very loud gasp. Child is in foster care and she is in jail without bond. The DA said that her child recorded it, she apparently told her to, and it was already ruled as assault because of the overwhelming proof, plus the 7 counts of assault she's gotten in the past 5 years already. 7 counts in 5 years? She's got a serious, serious problem. No wonder she went straight for your throat. And imagine her telling her little kid to record her committing a crime. That is truly awful. A very big problem. That had I gotten her nailed with it outside her home, she would have only gotten probation since she was a parent. But now she lost her kid, her home, her car, and is going to be in jail for about 3 years or more, depending what the state charges her with for the drugs. 30 years. Wow, that is a huge consequence for her terrible choices. It's sad for the child, but honestly, this woman needed to be stopped. What a wild series of events. It is a terrible situation that turned out to be a very big justice served moment. You do not mess with people. In the year 2003, the company I was working for closed down, so I sought out new employment. Oh man, that is never a fun thing to deal with, having your company shut down out of the blue. I am glad you got a new job so fast, though. I was a machinist by trade, with a great reputation, so it took me less than a day to get a job. A whole day? Just kidding, that is amazing. Being in demand is such a great feeling. We will call the new place Spiral because of the specialized tools they made. Anyway, I started out as one of the operators. The place was owner-operated, meaning the owner was there daily. He had a floor supervisor that was actually pretty nice. After I had been there around a year, the owner and super had a falling out and the super left. For whatever reason, the owner, we shall call him Dick, told me I was in charge. Well, that is a fast track to being the boss. Congrats, I guess. But Dick, that name is a red flag right there. I am giggling. A little backstory on Dick. He was in his 60s and had started the company out of his garage. He ended up buying a huge chunk of land and turned it into an industrial park, all while in his 20s. By now, he was one of the richest guys in the state. He was also the biggest a-hole I had ever met. See, the name said. A very big eye roll. It is always the rich ones, is not it? They get a little money and forget how to be decent humans. A very loud sk sound. During our talks, I learned that he cooked his books. You see, the industrial park was owned by an entity that he created, while Spiral was owned by another. He would always make sure that the park entity charged Spiral enough in rent that it looked like the company was barely staying afloat. Wait, so he was moving money around to look poorer than he was? That is like definitely illegal, right? That is shady. Very thoughtful. He also bragged that he had taken a bunch of industrial waste and buried it on his property at home because it cost so much less. What? Stop. Seriously? Bragging about burying toxic waste? He is a menace to society. He must have been so full of himself to tell you that. That is mind-blowing. No way. He made my life hell over the next decade, always keeping my pay just high enough that I could not afford to leave while treating me and my guys like crap. This is the worst kind of trap. Like, what a monster to purposely keep you dependent on him. That is just cruel. I ended up with a 95% turnover rate on employees. I'm not exaggerating. I believe it. Who would want to stick around with that maniac screaming at everyone? That is such a huge sign that the boss is the problem. We ended up having to go to temp agencies, and towards the end, even they refused to send me people. That is so bad. When even the temp agencies say, no thanks, you know the place is toxic. I had to do some careful wording, but my duties ended up swelling to the point where I'd convinced Dick to let me say I was the plant manager. This right here was huge. I have no degree from college, but I now had the title and the experience. Okay, wait, this is the master plan coming together. You're playing the long game. That is seriously brilliant thinking, using his ego to get that title. A very impressed Rizal. I started to look for a job in earnest, and after 6 months, I found one for a lot more money with benefits. Yeah, Spiral had none. Yes, get that money. You totally deserve it after a decade of that nonsense. It is about time you got benefits too. Now, over my time at Spiral, I had seen everyone that gave them notice be told to leave on the spot. And the company that hired me insisted I give them the 2-week notice. So I said I would, but I didn't. Oh, you're gonna get him back, are you not? I love it. What a delicious piece of ring bench this is gonna be. At the end of my last day, I sat at my desk and sent an email to the head of OSHA and the state's EPA office, 2 men that I had gotten to know well. You had connections. This is even better. You were building your case the whole time. You are a genius. I filled them in on all the violations Dick had disclosed. And I also sent an email to the state's attorney about the books. Oh, you dropped the whole bomb of financial fraud and environmental crimes. That is the perfect storm. I left my keys on my desk with a paper under them that simply read, I quit. Mic drop. That is epic. Simple, direct, and so satisfying. A very loud, joyful clap.
I never found out if the state Junika went anywhere, but the contact at Oshut let me know the company ended up with $150,000 in fines for some willful violations. Boom! That is a big chunk of money. Take that, Dick! And the guy from the EPA dug up half of Dick's property before he admitted to where he buried the waste. Last I knew, he ended up in jail. Yes, he went to jail. That is exactly what he deserved for being a terrible person and polluting the planet. You didn't just quit a job, you took down a criminal. You are a legend. Woohoo!
One day, I was on my evening walk with my dog, and we came across a small dog standing in the middle of the street, shaking. Oh no, that is already making my stomach hurt. Poor little thing. Its hair was matted, had mange, ridden with fleas, one eye swollen and sealed shut with mucus, nails so long it was walking on the back of its paws, malnourished and quivering. Wait, stop. That is absolutely heartbreaking. That is not just shaking, that is pure neglect and abuse. I am literally holding back a little sob right now. That is just terrible. I was shocked. I called my wife to bring me a blanket and come pick us up. While I was waiting, the door of the house in front of us opened, and out came a disheveled-looking older man. He started calling for the dog to come inside. Oh, the owner is right there. I know it. This is not going to end well. I can feel it. I absolutely lost it. I screamed at him asking if it was his dog, and he replied it was. I asked him why it was in such bad shape, and he said she's sick and won't eat. Are you kidding me right now? That is such a lame excuse. It is not sick. It is being starved and neglected. I would have lost it too. Good for you for screaming. I yelled at him there was no fucking way in the world I was letting him take her back inside. The shouting match lasted long enough for a few neighbors to come outside, who later told me he had another dog in the house. A second dog? Oh my gosh, this needs to be investigated immediately. Those neighbors should have said something sooner, but I am glad they came out. Eventually, my wife pulls up, and I wrap the doggo in the blanket and go home. That is so great. You rescued that poor, sweet pup. That is such a kind thing to do. I looked up the name of our local no-kill shelter, but they were closed until the following day. My wife and I decided to call her Sally. I gave Sally a bath and went and bought some wet foods, and she wouldn't eat dry kibble. She devoured it. I set her up a nice sleeping area in the garage for her to spend the night. Sweet Sally, I am so glad she got to feel loved and warm and full, even if it was just for a little bit. You two are good people. First thing in the morning, I took Sally to the shelter and called animal control and told them what happened. They went to check her out, took a statement from me, and ended up at Hint's house confiscating his other dog. Yes, get that poor second dog out of there. Thank goodness for animal control getting involved. Unfortunately, Sally was put down due to the horrible shape it was in. She was also very old. Oh, my heart just sank. That is so sad, but at least her very last night was spent being safe, loved, and fed instead of on the street, shaking. That is a small comfort, I suppose. A very big sniffle. Here's where the revenge begins. Okay, I am ready. The guy totally deserves whatever is coming to him, seriously. This old a-hole house was on the route I took to walk my dog twice a day. My dog liked to take a dump about 2 houses before we reached his. Perfect. Now I didn't need to carry bags of shit all the way back to my house. I started tossing them on his roof twice a day. Wait, you are launching dog poop onto his roof twice a day. That is so gross, but also ridiculously clever and kind of hilarious. What a genius, disgusting way to get revenge.
He actually tried to clean it up. Oh my gosh. And now he just has given up. I am absolutely cracking up right now. A very loud, joyful laugh. This went on for about a year before I moved. His roof was covered in shit bags. A whole year. That is commitment. I am imagining this roof covered in little plastic parcels. That is a mental image I did not need, but I am loving it. A very big, hearty laugh. I also printed out flyers with his address and pictures of how I found Sally and put them in all the neighbors' mailboxes. Oh, you exposed him to everyone. That is perfect public shaming. Now all those neighbors know exactly what kind of monster he is. I live across town now, but every couple months I bide by and toss a bag of dog shit on his roof to let him know I'm still thinking about Sally. You're still doing it. The dedication. That is seriously the best, most unhinged revenge story I have ever heard. What a fitting, smelly way to remind him that he is a terrible human being. Go you. A very happy chuckle and a final approving nod.
Hell hath no fury like two women scorned. Say goodbye to all your stuff. 15 years ago, I had a boyfriend that I'd been with for 6 years. He moved to another city for work while I finished my studies, and then I would move there too. He was apartment hunting, subleasing in the meantime. 6 years, that is a long time. And you were planning your whole future around this move? This is already smelling fishy, though. A very slight frown. He came home almost every weekend and during Christmas and New Year's. He found an apartment in January and invited me up to show it, and I prepared to move up, looking for a job, looking for new furniture, etc. Late February, I told him it's time to terminate the lease on the apartment in our hometown when he suddenly broke up with me. Wait, what? Just like that? After 6 years planning the move and everything? That is so incredibly cold and terrible. I would have been absolutely devastated and furious. A very loud, shocked gasp. He collected some clothes on his very expensive PC, which he had built from scratch. It was his baby. Of course, he made sure to grab his precious computer. Self-centered much. 2 weeks later, he updated his profile pic on Facebook to him and another woman kissing. Oh, that snake. I knew it. 2 weeks is way too fast for a public kissing picture. He was definitely cheating on you. I bet you were so mad when you saw that. Obviously, they hadn't been dating 2 weeks. I called him and called him out on it, and he admitted to having met her 2 months ago. He was at the airport to travel abroad with his buddy for the weekend, so we didn't talk long. Only 2 months, he says. Yeah, okay, buddy. Liar, liar. But wait, he is traveling abroad, leaving his house empty? This is perfect timing for something. That same evening, I decided to tell the new girlfriend. I managed to find her on Facebook and wrote her. Yes, get her. You do not let a cheater get away with that. The other women deserve the truth. She didn't believe me at first, of course, but I sent her text, pic, I described their apartment in detail. Well, her apartment, as it turned out. When I sent her a private picture, he'd sent me with their bedroom clearly in the background. She said, okay, enough. I believe you. Whoa, that is some hardcore proof. Using the bedroom as evidence, that is next level thinking. A very surprised mouth sound. She told me they'd been dating for 8 months, not 2. She'd been in Africa for 2 months in December and January, which would explain why he was able to be with me for 2 weeks over the holidays and why he could invite me to see the apartment. 8 months, so he'd been living a complete double life right under your nose for over half a year. That is so awful. What a scumbag. We wrote a lot. He'd sent us the exact same Valentine's Day text. He'd bought us the exact same Christmas present, etc. You get the picture. Oh no, that is so lazy and terrible. He did not even bother to change the wording. I bet you two were laughing and crying at the same time comparing notes. This is where a team-up happens. After comparing notes, it was time for revenge.
She had up all of his clothes and left them in a pile on the floor. Yes, slice and dice every shirt, every pair of pants, gone. That is fantastic. I told her about the PC and advised her to destroy that thing to pieces. She hacked it with a screwdriver and hammers, and every piece was beyond saving. The computer, his baby! That is the most brutal part. I love it. The sound of a hammer hitting that expensive metal would be so satisfying. A very loud, evil laugh. When he came home on Sunday, she tossed him out with nowhere to go but not before showing him all of his possessions obliterated. And Newman's probably exhausted from his trip. Oh, that isn't best timing. Imagine his face seeing that pile of rags and the pile of computer parts. Pure perfection. A very happy clap. Edit. I need to clarify that legally it was my PC. I'd won money on one of the Scotch lottery tickets, but since we were living together, I've kind of thought of it as ours. Huge mistake. Wait, so the destruction of the PC was technically the destruction of your property? That makes the revenge even mustier, but since you authorized it, I guess that is okay. That is a fun detail. You got him even harder than I thought.
Kill my cat, get smashed. This is a story from my childhood. I lived in a small suburban neighborhood in the 90s. We had 2 dachshunds we kept in a backyard fence, and 3 cats that just roamed our 1/8 acre corner lot in my subdivision. Of the 3 cats, Magic was the matriarch. She was a big fat black cat that didn't really run from any neighborhood cats or dogs. A big tough matriarch. I love that. Cats that run the neighborhood are the best. Our neighbors across the street had a pit bull that they would let roam the neighborhood. It was never aggressive towards me or my friends, but also was not a friendly dog. We just stayed away from it when playing in the woods. People who just let their big, unfriendly dogs wander around are the worst kind of neighbors. That is so irresponsible and dangerous. One day, that pit bull charged my cat while I was in the yard playing. It began to whip its head back and forth, shaking Magic, and I ran in to get my dad. Oh, no. That whipping its head detail is chilling. That poor cat. You did the right thing, running for help. We didn't have a gun for home defense. My dad kept a 4-foot-long galvanized steel rod that was about an inch thick next to the door, though. I've never seen him move that fast. He was on that dog in about 5 seconds flat. Your dad is a hero. That is pure dad instinct kicking in, protecting his kid and his cat. Moving that fast with a big steel rod? Incredible. I remember seeing him strike the dog probably 3 times before it let go of Magic. My dad said, "Come here, Doxy. We are going to the neighbor's house." He was pissed, shaking. When I got closer, I could see that the dog's skull was completely smashed. You could see blood and gray matter. It was gnarly. Its eye socket was also smashed. Whoa, that is terrifying and totally brutal. 3 hits with a steel rod will absolutely do that, I guess. That is a truly horrific sight for Kidesi. I'm so sorry you had to witness that. He picked up the dead dog, walked with me to the owner's house. The man answered the door and said, "What did you do to my dog?" What did he do to the dog? What about what his dog did to your cat, which was just minding its own business? Some people have absolutely no self-awareness, seriously. And my dad said, "The same darn thing I'm gonna do to you if this happens to one of my kids." Mic drop. Your dad is a total bad person, and I mean that in the best way possible. That threat, while intense, was absolutely deserved. He showed that man exactly what happens when you endanger his family. A very big approving nod. They never got another dog, we never saw them again, and they moved about a year later. Good riddance. They clearly learned their lesson, or at least they were too scared to stay. Your dad put the fear of justice into them. Edit. I might be lost. I felt like the nature of dragging the bloody dog back to the owner and threatening them with the same for killing the cat was revenge, but maybe not. Oh, it is revenge, 100%. It is a primal, immediate, and incredibly effective form of revenge. I also get these comments about animal cruelty and being a psycho or something when I've posted this story on Reddit before.
I don't think you all understand how much this marked me. I focused on facts in this post, not feelings, because the feelings are very painful. It was 30 years ago now, and I can still remember very minute details of the scene. And I remember going on a roller coaster from terrified I was going to die to scared my dad was going to die to scared/sad about magic and the dog to scared about confronting the parents, and then to a deep mourning for my favorite cat. Even to this day, it's the best cat I've ever had. Oh, I am so sorry. You people are focusing on the wrong thing. You went through a traumatic event as a child, and your dad acted to protect you and your pet. It is not some kind of simple moral tale. It is a memory of violence and protection. That kind of thing sticks with you forever. A very sympathetic, oh dear, sound. Losing magic like that is what started this whole horrible chain of events. Not sure why you expect this to be some kind of morality tale. That's just what happened.
I hunted down my credit card thieves. Mini update. Got a notification in the mail of the court date this week. Kinda bummed only one of the 3 are being charged. I'm hoping to attend if I can get a babysitter for my baby. Do they allow babies in courtrooms? Only one? That is a shame. They all looked pretty involved, seriously. You should definitely try to go to court, though. As for the baby, I am pretty sure they do not allow infants, but check with the court clerk's office beforehand, just to be sure. A very slight disc sound. Crosspost recommended several times in petty revenge, delete if not allowed. Yesterday morning, I received an email notification from my credit card company stating a transaction for $1,500 at a med spa was declined, and another stating it was approved. I immediately called said CC company to report the fraudulent card. A med spa? Okay, that is pretty luxurious for a stolen card. That is a ridiculous amount of money. Turns out my card has had fraudulent charges over the past 3 weeks with purchases including various hotels in my area, eBay, gas station, self-storage, and moving truck rental. I rarely use this card. The last time I used it in person was in February and last online purchase in 2023. Fortunately, my CC company flagged all recent charges and closed my card. 3 weeks of all that activity, they were busy. Good thing your card company was on the ball, though. That is a huge relief. This morning, my significant other had a doctor appointment in the same city as a hotel purchase made yesterday. After the doctor, boyfriend asked me what he thought we should do today. I said, well, you want to be shop for some new shoes? Or we can swing by this hotel off the street and see if the credit card thieves are still there. The amount seemed like it would cover 2 or 3 days. Wait, you actually suggested a stakeout instead of shoe shopping? You are a total detective. I love that you were so willing to go track them down just for the heck of it. A very intrigued sound. So boyfriend and I go to the hotel to see if the people were still checked in and to let them know the card was stolen and the charges would be reversed. Front desk lady was mad. She was able to find the reservation by card number and noted that the person had kept change in cards to pay for their room. Aha, the hotel staff was already having trouble with him. That is even better. Of course, they didn't tell me the room number. Much to my boyfriend's dismay, boyfriend was hoping to get a room key to take their stuff. Lol, right? That would have been amazing, but probably highly illegal. A very loud cheeky laugh. I called the CC company and they asked me to call the police. I called the sheriff department and they arrived within 20 minutes. I was surprised that even came. Me too! I am shocked I sent people out so fast for a credit card fraud report. You must have sounded very convincing. I gave them my report, identification, and credit card. The deputy asked if I wanted to prosecute. I said, yes, but can I prosecute if my CC company is going to refund all the money in a day? Yes, you absolutely can. It's about the crime they committed, not just the money you lost. It is a big deal. Then they went inside and spoke to the front desk, who provided them the invoice. Boyfriend and I waited outside in front of the lobby. Then, through the automatic sliding doors, I hear the front desk lady yell, "That's him! He's trying to leave!" Yes, that is so movie-like. That hotel lady is a hero. Seriously. That is what you get for being a thief.
A very excited, happy gasp. Light Hispanic dude with a bull terrier and several bags gets placed in cuffs. Then another little Asian guy gets brought out in cuffs. A third deputy arrives and brings out a fancy Asian lady with a face full of fillers, 2 suitcases, and a designer backpack. This is a whole squad. They sound like a cast of characters for a new television show. Seriously. The fancy lady with the fillers? I cannot believe it.
4 officers start going through the backpacks on the hood of their car. We see passports, identification cards, credit cards. They pull out a big credit card printing machine and a laptop. Oh my gosh, they are running a whole counterfeiting operation right out of that hotel room. This one from petty fraud to major crime really fast. Then they pull out a big Ziploc filled with crystal meth, and the cop exclaims, "Here we go," and turns towards us to flash his smile. Holy smokes, drugs do? That cop was definitely having a good day. That is a huge bust for them. You accidentally busted a whole criminal enterprise. 2 of them go back to search the hotel room and bring down 2 bags with more drugs, a scale, 4 car keys, and a big wad of cash. Unfortunately, none of the cars were in the parking lot, and the perp said they had been traveling by Uber. Imagine being their Uber driver. They're so unscrupulous. 4 car keys suggest they have more cars hidden somewhere too. The cops contacted one of the thief's friends to pick up the dog, who arrived pretty quickly. It was an older Asian dude with tattoos, flashy jewelry, and an old luxury sport utility vehicle. Don't worry, we got his pics and license plates. All these guys seemed like characters out of The Brother's Son. They really do. The plot thickens with every new person you introduce. This is like real-life detective work. The deputies then gave me all the paperwork and told me that one of the guys said they stole my card off of the internet. I would have guessed that they used a scanner while I was at the fair a few weeks ago. I find that so weird because I haven't used my card online in almost a year. Apparently, they made a physical card that had a different name on it. That is actually a common tactic, sadly. But stealing the numbers online when you have not used the card is so weird. Anyway, they had your numbers and were able to print new cards. That is what is so frightening about this whole thing. Anywho, I walk inside to give the front desk a copy of the incident number, and then I remembered something else. I remember seeing another transaction for a storage unit that was made yesterday and 2 charges at a rental truck company. I go back outside and talk to the sheriff and asked him if he wanted me to try to figure out where that was. I was able to track down the storage location to a city about 15 minutes away, but no candy on the trucks. I called the storage place and they confirmed that a payment was made with my card, but would not give me the unit number from there. The sheriff said that it was out of their jurisdiction and they would try to get a search warrant, but that might take a while. However, it might be helpful if I made a police report with the other city. So, with nothing better to do, I drove my rear over there and made another police report regarding the storage unit. You are a pit bull. You just would not give up. Driving to another city to file another report? You are their best resource right now, seriously. You are basically an unpaid investigator. That's it for now. We'll update if anything else happens. In the meantime, I will call up the credit bureau to freeze my social security, tell my dog to be on alert and load magazines. Any other suggestions? Also, the cop asked if I wanted to prosecute, but that was before the drug bust. So do I need a lawyer? Thanks in advance. Definitely freeze your credit and consider a fraud alert. And no, you do not need a lawyer to prosecute. The district attorney will handle the criminal case because they broke so many laws. You are the victim and a witness now. You did a fantastic job and you got some amazing revenge by taking down their whole operation. A very big share.